when writing a video game as a narrative in a genre such as like an RPG, um, writing is obviously one of the most important steps there. It's one of the few genres where I think writing is really in the forefront, where it should be intertwined with gameplay in an interesting way and really make something pop, really tell a story. It's a good avenue to go about that. It's kind of one step above visual novel. Like if you wanted to like put things in order, it'd be like novel, then it'd be like comic book, then it'd be like movie, television show, visual novel, and then it would be like turn-based RPG, strategy RPG, and then like action RPG. And then I think that's kind of the full range there of telling story in the format that I'm thinking of. I don't know if that's anything. That might not be true. That's just what I'm thinking. But of course, one of the more important steps to to writing is theme. A lot of shows I've seen have had no through line in it, no point, and it kind of makes watching it really boring. But there are a few that I wanted to go over that have an intended thesis. They have like a goal in mind, an actual theme in mind, and then they don't follow through. And this could be anywhere from an individual character to an entire series. Most of the time, whenever an entire series flops like this, they'll have a character that'll explicitly tell you what the theme is, and then they'll do the opposite. So, starting off with an interesting one, I was rewatching Stranger Things because the new season came out, and we were rewatching it, and we got up to season 4 a couple nights ago, and Eddie as a character just got introduced. Now, I remember really liking Eddie on my first watch. I thought he was a super cool guy, super eccentric, super loud, super extroverted, and I thought that was really interesting. But then on the rewatch, I realized something pretty important. Lucas, he had something that he was really passionate about, that being his basketball game. And despite preaching anti-conformity, that's one of the big things about Eddie is, like, his whole thesis is like, man, my least favorite thing ever is, like, following the man, you know, conformity is what's killing the children. He literally says that. He's like,
it's conformity. That's what's killing the kids!
And then, when Lucas is on his way to do something he's passionate about, that being playing his basketball game, not only does he not go to support Lucas, but also he prevents any of his friends from going to support him. He calls going to do basketball joining the dark side. And I think that's really interesting because that is very explicitly forced conformity. I mean, it doesn't take a really big logic jump to think about when you have the expectation of going to these D&D weeks. This happens like once a week or once a month or whatever. D&D sessions, they're scheduled ordinarily, and he talks a lot about the stakes of the scheduling, that being, we've got stuff there. And then down here you have something that's been scheduled for a while, that being Lucas's basketball game, the championship game. If this was a random practice game, I would still disagree with it personally. I think ordinarily, in my experience with D&D, you would just reschedule something like that. But this was being the championship game. This is a flagship game. This is an important moment for Lucas. It's important to him at the very least. And so, when your goal is to promote anti-conformity with something that's like super like flexible. By the way, D&D is not an immovable object. Like, it's a very private hobby. It's just like a group of 5 people. So ultimately, D&D can be any day ever, month, week, whatever you want to go with. And then the championship game of basketball, that can't be rescheduled. That's that's a very public event. That's several people coming together. So Eddie, he explicitly states, he says verbatim, conformity is what's killing us, and yet he immediately contradicts that by refusing to go to Lucas's game. I also thought it was really interesting how all the characters, like Will and Mike, they just didn't go to see that either. Like this is something clearly Lucas is very passionate about. He goes and he's like, can we reschedule? Can we do whatever? And Eddie not only doesn't go, but he refuses to reschedule. He's the DM of the whole thing. And so the whole time he's like, no, you can't go do that because that is against the norm. That breaks the grain of nerd. You are not allowed to do something jockish like go to basketball, because then you can't be a nerd. And nerds are who play D&D, and you are not one, so therefore you play basketball. That's it. Forcing us into boxes, that's what conformity is. And so anti-conformity would be to accept anybody despite their background, despite what they do, despite what their passion is. And with Eddie being someone who's so vocal about passion being the number one thing, he's anti-conformity, that to me translates as he is pro-passion. He thinks that people should be doing stuff that they're true to, stuff that they're interested in, stuff that they are passionate about, and yet here he is stifling that. So that's the first example. That one's a little, like, I wouldn't say niche. It's a little bit undiscussed. I feel like a lot of people, they see Eddie and they immediately just cling to him as an idea because Eddie as a character is a lot of fun. I think at the beginning he's rough, and then when you warm up to him, he gets to be cooler, and we forget about that rough patch, that beginning part. I haven't seen the rest of season 4 yet. I mean, I have, but on my rewatch, I've forgotten a lot about season 4, so I'm only on like episode 3 right now. So maybe he doesn't get bigger. Maybe all of us should just remember that epic moment at the end and then just forget all of it. But moving on, probably the most common example of this is the generic shonen hard work setting. I feel like whenever the theme hard work is brought up, it's immediately contradicted. Like, if we look at Naruto, for example, Naruto as a entire character, he has a foil in like the first series. There's 2 different series. There's Naruto, that's the beginning, that's when he's a kid, and then there's Naruto Shippuden, that's when he grows up a little bit. I think it starts when he's 16, so I guess not that grown up, but still. Point is, that's the difference. But in Naruto, the beginning one, he fights off against Neji, one of the main characters, the Hyuga clan. Well, not main characters. He's more of a small antagonist of the arc, kind of a side character that doesn't get much development for the rest of the series. But that's not really the point. The point is that Neji's claim is that everybody is born with a purpose, and you serve that purpose, and if you don't serve that purpose, you die. And it has nothing to do with hard work. Hard work has nothing to do with this. You are trapped in what you do, and success is predetermined before you even get there. And Naruto, his whole thing is hard work. He believes through passion and hard work, you can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want. You can get to anywhere you want, and no matter what, you can accomplish your dreams. However, Naruto as a series constantly reaffirms Neji's beliefs as opposed to Naruto's. And while it's very much trying to tell you that Naruto is the one in the right here, he's the hero there, he's fighting Neji, it's almost like the series itself disagrees. Naruto, for context, the main character, he is supposed to be our underdog character, the one who has to work so hard to get to the point he wants to be. That being president of the United States of the Hidden Leaf, basically. So his goal is to get to like top status level. You know, the shonen thing. Guy wants a goal. Something stops him, so he has to progressively overcome that to make it to that goal. Very hero's journey, very 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 generic. But Naruto, he is the one who's supposed to be hardworking. However, when Naruto does accomplish that goal eventually, he becomes Hokage. He becomes what he set out to be at the beginning of the journey. However, first things first, he was born under two of the strongest clans in the series. That means he is familial blood, which is very important because families in this series have like special abilities that are unique to them. So it's like something called a Kage Genkai. That's an ability that is exclusive to the series, or that is exclusive to your family. And Naruto doesn't have any Kage Genkai, but what he does have is he has a trait, that being extremely high chakra reserves, which means he can dish out as much as he wants in any intensity he wants of any jutsu that he learns. Granted, in the series, he only learns like 3 jutsu, which is not super helpful, but those 3 jutsu ordinarily wouldn't be that powerful, but because of his chakra reserves, because of how much energy he has, he can just keep dishing it out at extraordinary volumes. And so that's why he's so unbeatable. Like one of the ones of cloning jutsu, ordinarily that wouldn't be very powerful because most people, they can't make 1,000,000 clones. But because Naruto has so much fucking energy, he can just make 1,000,000 of them and then just overwhelm you to death. And it's like, okay, well, how is that fair? That doesn't make any sense. It's not like he worked to gain that energy. It's not like anything specific that he worked for. He didn't train that energy. He trained to harness that energy, but that's not the same thing because he already had that nerf. And the reason why I'm completely dismissing the idea of training energy as like an important step here is because, well, I mean, not even discounting the fact that he's a reincarnated god, and a demon is literally sealed inside of him, and that's what gives him all of that power, and that's what makes him basically unstoppable. Which are 3 different reasons why Naruto's character entirely is just like it kills itself. It's an actual Ouroboros of a character. He just literally, the more you learn about him, the less he's like engaging in the core theme of hard work. Hard work can get you anywhere. But there is actually a character that is pure hard work, full send, actually hard work, and he's so cool. He's my favorite character, the most interesting character, Rock Lee. Rock Lee, in this world of magic, spellcasting, wizard ninjas, has no energy. He has no ability to cast magic, and like he's no ability to use chakra, and so therefore everything he does is pure physical exertion. And so everything he does is hard work. Literally everything. All of his combat is hard work, all of his speed is hard work, all of his strength is hard work, and he actively in that first series challenges an incredibly powerful spellcaster with just his physical prowess. Something he earned, something he worked for, and something that's very evident he works for, because throughout the series they make sure to recount to you that he's training all the time. Yet in his most cinematic fight in the first series, when he's up against probably one of the most powerful spellcasters in the series so far at that point, he takes off his weights, which, first of all, does a few things. It reaffirms that he's training all the time, which means everything he's doing is hard work, and everything he does is with the purpose of getting stronger, something he does without the help of spells, basically. So him taking off his weights does that. But also, it shows off just how powerful this guy is without the help of magic.
Ah, that is better. Now I will be able to move freely.
Come on, you really think you'll be able to get through Gaara's defenses just by dropping a couple of pounds of weight?
I mean, Rock Lee blitzes at supersonic speeds after dropping weights that were so powerful they launched smoke clouds that were at least 500 feet into the air. So with that in mind, he goes in and he lands a final hit on that spellcaster that should, first of all, absolutely kill that spellcaster, but then it doesn't. Like not only does it not do that, but Rock Lee loses the fight. Mind you, the actual theme of the series is hard work will get you places. And the only character whose main thing is hard work literally fails at every turn. The only time he wins an important point in the entire series is when he's drunk. I kid you not, the only time that he wins a fight is when he has no agency because he has a secret lock-in technique whenever he's inebriated. That means when he drank enough alcohol, he no longer had control over his body, and hard work was no longer the driving force of his actions, and therefore, he won the fight. He didn't earn that. The only character whose main premise is hard work, in a series about hard work being the main thing, and yet, in the only fight he wins, is the only one where he doesn't show his hard work, where hard work is negligible in the context of the fight, because he spent so much time in his alcohol, like so much time drinking, that all of his combat like IQ, all of his thoughts about fighting, all of his strategic mind, all of his technique, all of it goes down the drain and is replaced with an alcoholic lock-in state that's equivalent to Zenitsu's like going to sleep attack. And it's like, you didn't do anything. Like, yes, you trained yourself to be as powerful as you are to let the autoplay hit, but if I like am playing a video game and it has an auto battler on it and I turn on that auto battler, I'm not glazing myself for leveling up whatever thing I'm doing in order for that auto battler to come in clutch. I still didn't do anything because I didn't have my hands on the controller. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And if I was to write that, I would instead not only have Rock Lee be the main protagonist, but I would write it so that he would win more fights. Not that he would win every fight, because obviously that means that plot armor is involved, and then that also defeats the working hard thing, but at least have him win more fights and then get him to his goal. Make Rock Lee the protagonist. Make Rock Lee the Hokage without doing that. That's such an easy fix. But I mean, one more thing. One where it actually successfully does its theme and it executes it in an important way that I want to talk about is Vinland Saga. Now, Vinland Saga was another anime that came out a little bit more recent. Now, this is a seinen manga. It's different than shonen. It has a different demographic. Shonen being what Naruto is a part of, that being ages, I think, 13 to 18, and then seinen being 18 to 25. So it's a little bit more mature. But Vinland Saga, I think, executes its thesis way better, in my opinion. That being, I don't know, I don't want to like go into the depth of its philosophy on absurdism and like stoicism. So I think I'll just simplify it, and that's a terrible thing to do with Vinland Saga. Go watch Vinland Saga. Go take that for yourself. But if I was to simplify it to like just pacifism, if I was to say that this show is anti-violence and sees violence as a purely negative thing, and violence as a cycle is a negative thing, and so the best thing to do is to avoid it. That just being like a really surface level, really unprofessional like perspective on the anime. And mind you, I haven't read more than like 3 chapters of the manga after the anime concluded, so I'm not like I didn't watch all of it. I didn't read all of it. I can't tell you if they followed through on this all the way, but at least in the anime, up to this point, they first set up the entire season of just violence. The entire first season of just violence, just fights, just fighting each other, just attacking each other, and that's season 1. And what they did really well with season 1 is that it didn't work. Literally every time violence is brought up, it fails, and it does so spectacularly, it makes things worse for the protagonist. At the beginning, the protagonist, he goes on a Viking trip where they get ambushed, and that violence that he caused by attacking like one of the officers, if I remember correctly, led to his father's death. That was violence leading to violence. And then because his father died, he was taken in by a rogue group of vagabonds, in which case he was now a part of the crew, and then he was just perpetuating more violence. And we would see as a trail of destruction would perpetually follow him until a point where he's taken in by like a single mother and her daughter. And for an episode, just one episode, non-violence shows peace and prosperity and honestly what could have been a really good life for the main protagonist, that being Thorfinn. And Thorfinn is enjoying his time there until his vagabond crew comes in and destroys the village, and then his what could have been his surrogate family. And it was because of the violence that he'd perpetuated to that point that violence continued to follow him, because he continued to follow violence, that led to the death of good people that are innocent people. So season 1 is all about how violence fails. In fact, the final episode, that being where Thorfinn is finally face to face with the guy who killed his father, and that was the whole thing, is that he was following him, trying to get strong enough to kill Askeladd, the guy who killed his dad. So all the way to that point, and then Askeladd dies from someone else. And Thorfinn doesn't get the release of killing Askeladd, and that's frustrating for Thorfinn because that's what he dedicated a decade of his life towards. And he was then forced to wonder what to do with the rest of his life. I mean, the guy who he dedicated his life to killing just died. Not even at his own hands, mind you. And so now he has to think about what he's doing the rest for. And so season 2 has almost no fight scenes in it. At all. Thorfinn refuses to raise his fist for the entire season. It almost switches genre from like combat seinen or like battle seinen to like slice of life. That's how stark the difference between season 1 and 2 is. And that's because Thorfinn's philosophy changes. He instead he goes with pacifism. He decides to never fight, and that actually, it doesn't make him feel more fulfilled, but it does actually solve a few main conflicts in the series. So we saw a full season of violence not working, and then we get to see a full season of not violence working. And so that's the contrast. Yes, we see the contrast of what we're talking about. Like, this is bad. Violence is bad, right? This doesn't work for a full season. And then the second season, they try a different approach, that being the absence of that thing we elected was bad, and it works. Not 100% of the time, not every time. Like, it's still a realistic show. There are times where Thorfinn implicitly, he indirectly, I guess, leads to the death of other people by not intervening with violence, because he refuses to do violence. He sees it as an addiction. He sees it as a venom. He disagrees with it ideologically, and so he doesn't do it, and that leads to some people getting hurt. But there are also a few points where if he resorted to violence, he'd be dead. There's a point where he goes to talk to Canute, which is a cruel king. He goes to talk to Canute, and he's face to face with one of Canute's bodyguards. And the bodyguard is like, "You want to see Canute? You're going to have to beat me first. You're going to have to fight me first." And Thorfinn says, "I don't want to fight you, dude. I don't really fight people anymore. I'm kind of chill like that. I'm just a chill guy." And so the guy is like, "Okay, well, I guess if you can survive 100 of my punches, you can go see Canute." Which, I don't remember how that conversation worked, but it did. So Thorfinn survives the 100 punches. But the thing is, if Thorfinn resorted to violence there, he would be up against an army of 100 people going back-to-back killing him. Because, honestly, if he didn't show the resilience and the respect and the restraint that he did in that scene, I really don't think that they would have shown him all of that back. Like, he got punched 100 times in the face, and then they were like, "Shit, you held on to our deal, you can just go." But if he was like, all right, let's box for it, and then he fights and he kills the guy, I don't think the rest of the crew is just gonna be cool with him going to see Canute. You know, like, in fact, I don't even think it was a negotiation. I think it was like, I'd like to see Canute, and this guy's like, no, you can't see Canute. You're gonna have to get through me. And he's like, I don't want to do this, dude. I just want to show you that I'm a peaceful guy. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna beat your ass now. And then after 100 tries, he's like, I guess you're chill. You can go. But it's like, if he engaged in violence there, then he would have alerted the whole 100 people to come after him, and he was not gonna win that fight. Full send, he just wasn't. So that's an example of non-violence working in his favor. There's other points where he has to grapple with it, like when I think one of the women is getting kidnapped, and he has to think about, do I go resort to violence in order to get him? And he does, but he feels terrible about it. Despite the fact that the person kidnapping this woman is a terrible person, he is absolutely bogged down by the fact that he threw a punch. Not that he killed this guy, he didn't even kill this guy, he just beat him up a little bit. And he was like, fuck, I used my fists for violence. That's not what they're for. They're for planning shit. I'm a farmer now. And it's a really good way to execute your main philosophy as a through line of your series. If you want a thesis and a theme to go from beginning to end of your series, a really excellent way to go about it is to have an example of it not working, and then an example of it working. And or an example of the opposite not working, the example of the bad thing not working, an example of the good thing working. I obviously don't want to get too preachy about it, but that's just my opinion. So the way I want to take this is I want to actually take a close look into the perspective that I want to share in my game, and then I want to actually follow through on it. I think that the message that I'm going for, I'm not going to spoil it. I think that's dumb. I want you to actually play the game and figure it out for yourself. But whatever message that is, I have to be very careful that every aspect of the game supports it. I have to be sure that the menus support it. I have to be sure that the combat supports it. I have to be sure that the characters support it. I have to be sure that the protagonist. And this doesn't mean that there isn't success in other perspectives. In Vinland Saga, the good example I was talking about, there is like success in violence. Like, violence isn't an exclusively bad thing. It's a bad thing for a protagonist, and it's a bad thing in general. You shouldn't engage with it. But there are conflicts that can't be resolved without violence, and that's something you have to grapple with too. There is a responsibility that comes apart with, the setting you're trying to put down. So if you are to say, come up with a theme about pacifism doesn't have to be the only thing that works. You could have a separate character that does violence for a living, and he's really well off from it. He's really, but you have to be sure that the protagonist doesn't profit from violence, and ideally, the people who are profiting from violence, you don't want them to prosper forever. You don't want violence to be an actively, not that it's not an option at all, but you don't want it to be a sustainable option. You don't want it to be like an actual choice that you can choose, and if you engage with violence, you win, right? Like, if you work hard, you lose. Like you don't want that to be. Looking at those bad examples, one of the biggest things is that they didn't follow through. They had it so that no matter what, if you were to work hard, that didn't get you anything. And if you were born with special shit, you won. And that was just it was just a contrast to what Naruto was trying to say, and it was a contrast to the characters. It was hilarious. It was hilarious watching it. I was like, oh my god. The only character that works hard, he dies. Like, he doesn't die. He loses. He loses every fight. And then the one where he doesn't, like, his hard work doesn't amount to anything is the one where he wins. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? And then Vinland Saga, on the flip side, it's like, okay, well, non-violence is the main way to get success. Violence works occasionally as a short-term tool, but if it's your general ideology to cause violence, you don't win in the end no matter what. Askeladd, he was a violent individual. He loses. In the end of the day, he loses. The beginning, middle, and end, he was a slave to violence, and he died a slave to violence. That was Canute. Thorfinn, he was a slave to violence, and all he did was be violent, and all that did was lead to destruction everywhere he went. All the people that he cared about, they lost because he lost. All the people that, like everything important to Thorfinn was lost because destruction followed him wherever he went. Who else? It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't remember a lot. Torkel's main thing is violence, and he wins sometimes. He doesn't win all the time. He's never the head of anything, but he wins occasionally, and when he's under Thorfinn's army, he stops being violent, and he wins more. Like, that's how it goes. So at the end of the day, if you want to have a theme for your story, and I know a lot of stories don't have themes, and that pisses me off for a different reason I'll talk about later, but if you're going to have a theme in your story, if you're going to have a through line, stick with it, because otherwise, you are going to frustrate me. I don't care about the other people. I don't care about your general audience. I don't care about your demographic, alright? Listen, they like mindless slop that breaks as soon as you put any thought to it. That's fine. But you're going to frustrate me, and I'm the most important voice here. No matter, forget all the critics. My opinion is the one that matters most. And so forget all these guys. I'm the one that matters. And I will be frustrated with you if you fuck up your theme, alright? And I'm going to try my best to not fuck up my theme. If I do, though, I will be very sad, and I will be hoping to get criticism for that. If in my game, it's not if in my game it's not evident what my theme is, and then, or even it is evident and then it breaks it immediately, I hope that shit flops. I genuinely, I cannot stand an idea where I write something and then it flops, and then it succeeds despite not telling the story I wanted to. That would be so obnoxious to me. I would despise that. That would literally make my blood boil. So if my theme is not apparent, or worse, my theme is apparent and it doesn't follow that theme, review bomb that shit to hell. Do not let that shit succeed. Do not let me get rich off that. Wait until I'm good enough, and then give me money. All right, so that's about it. I know this is longer. This is media analysis. This is media whatever. Analysis is a rough thing. It's more of like an unstructured rant on observations in media. But I hope that was interesting. I hope that really explains my perspective on writing. I hope that showed my opinion on a theme and how it should be used, how it should be displayed, and what I think is good, what I think is bad. A lot of it probably was just gibberish, or even like talking points everybody said before, but I don't care. So shut up. You're lame and you're stupid too, because you're not me and I'm amazing. Have a good night, unless you're lame and stupid, and I will see you next time.